He, this is Point Black, coming in hard and off the cart, coming with the flow straight from the barrel, and coming with that heat from the damn street. This is PBNN, Point Black, National News, the late and the great edition, and the ghetto edition as well, because this is what we must do, with the facts to crack backs and the heat from the damn street, and the boom bip to their lying ass lips. This is the date and the great edition and the ghetto edition as well, because this is always what we must do in all ways, as you see. Now today we're taking a look at, we're still going down the road with the dance. So we're still on the dance today. You know what I'm saying? As you see. You know what I'm saying? All types of clown shows going on, all types of foolishness going on, people dancing left and right, trying to get themselves out of shit, knowing that we're gonna take the heat in the long run. Anyway, they ain't foolish enough to know that that wasn't going to happen, just like Donald Trump knew what was going to happen. But he's a martyr now in the fact of a hero standing up. There's a few things that he's done that I don't agree with, but there's a lot that he did that I do agree with. Let's just be frank. You know what I'm saying? In more ways than one, he has shown the world and exposed the deep state for what they are, which we already knew about, but at the same time, he damn sure made sure the whole world now knows. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with the warp speed situation when he was in the presidency seat. I don't agree with the warp speed that he did in any shape or form. You know what I'm saying? Because if he was chief of commander, he should have put an end to the whole scenario as a whole. But, doing to whatever measure he saw he had to do is what he did. You know what I mean? But I still don't agree with it. You know what I'm saying? In no shape or form. But we also don't agree with none of Creep Joe Biden's move, especially now that he has pushed us in, and using NATO as his bully tactic, you know what I'm saying? And also the affiliation of uh, whatever his name is, Zelensky, whatever his name is over there in Ukraine, going along with this bullshit, pushing this war in Africa, you know what I'm saying, to across the land to Africa, this land today that we call America. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we see, you know, this bullshit. Now Putin is talking about prospering up nuclear weapons, saying over there you're seeing mushroom clouds and so on and so on. You know what I mean? Even when we look at the dude who created the atomic bomb right here on Long Island, you know what I'm saying? Basically, I guess on the North Fork side, you know what I mean? Oppenheimer, whatever his name was, got together, talked up the meeting with the greatest minds and created the atomic bomb that they dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki eventually. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at where he dropped those bombs, where they dropped those bombs, it wasn't in Hong Kong, was it? You know what I'm saying? It was on the probably the poor side of town with the black people and the dark skinned people were. You know what I'm saying? Like my man said before he passed away, the comedian, you know, why are they always attacking brown people? You know what I'm saying? I think his name was George Harris or something like that. Great Caucasian white comedian. You know what I'm saying? Very truthful in his ways. You know what I mean? But we see this, and he did this on Long Island, but when they dropped him, he was sharing Nagasaki, you know what I'm saying? Probably the black side of town, you know what I'm saying? They dropped the atomic bombs, you know what I'm saying? If they truly wanted to make a statement, They would have did the same thing damn near what they did in Germany. You know what I'm saying? They would have dropped it in Hong Kong right in Central City, but they didn't do that, did they? You know what I'm saying? So we see a lot of bullshit that going on in itself. You know what I mean? So we know full well, even if when you look at the historical battle of the Nagas and the Nagasaki, you need to get over to Sarah Salt and said Patreon account where he explains about the Nagas and all that different situation that I just spoke on, which would be very interesting to a lot of people to look at. But the guy that actually, they say, put together this whole ideology and created this atomic bomb shit, he called a big meeting right here on Long Island, over there, I think somewhere in Greenport or, Southwold or whatever on that side. And, they all told him this shit and created this fucking bomb that was supposed to end all wars. But to me, all he did was create a bomb with his evil looking ass. When you look at him, he looked like a damn satanic being. You know what I mean? If you ask me, it didn't end all wars, but it killed a whole lot of black people, probably, that was living in the Nagasaki and probably some of Hiroshima. You know what I'm saying? We see the nonsense. You know what I mean? And he over here on Long Island having dinner and wine and talking about he was the best thinking minds. What fucking thinking mind would have thought of the atomic bomb? It doesn't matter what country came the idea with the scientists. Is even over there in Germany, Russia, whatever, who would be thinking of bombs that could annihilate, weapons of mass destruction that can annihilate billions of people who have nothing to do with the conflict, in which your cornball off the wall, crack knucking fucking head idiots, is running between each other and your so-called social orders that you seem to have. You know what I'm saying? We have to start to look at this as the regular people, because you are not in the boat. You are not in the boat with these oligarchs and these rich and these elites, are you? And if you was, then you would probably be a part of this shitty plan anyway. So it still wouldn't lead to much to show that we must start to look at the world we live in and the leadership in which you elect into office that has that power of chief and commander, and using it as a manipulating force. As you see, what it has led us to is damn near one step to a nuclear standoff and a nuclear war. You know what I'm saying? And the regular people who sitting up here, juiced up, should be really thinking about that, because if they did that to you, imagine what they care about you when it comes to a nuclear war. You know what I'm saying? And you're left running and scratching for somewhere to cover yourself from that type of radiation that would literally rip your skin off down to the bone and turn your bones into literal ashes. You know what I'm saying? In seconds. You know what I'm saying? People are not aware of the consequences that the pre-Joe Biden administration has pushed us into, including all the demon Democrats amongst the bunch, and it could be all, as well as many Republicans on the Republican side as well, and probably all, we don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because this was one damn circus show that we see in all ways. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, why would we want to go into a nuclear war when we have nothing to do with NATO and its fuck up shit that it's doing to Russia? You know what I'm saying? You think that this is cute, and it's not cute at all. You know what I'm saying? Why would the Biden administration be facilitating sending 4.3 billion dollars to Ukraine to fight Russia? This is exacerbating a nuclear war in itself, in its fullness, in all ways as a whole. You know what I'm saying? And when people, I guess decide to wake up, because, they already been put to sleep by some bullshit, because we could tell by how they lined up and got the Sakatumi. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, now that happened, you know what I'm saying, they probably be completely oblivious and probably being controlled into agreeing along with what Joe Biden and them is doing, sending millions of dollars over to Ukraine. What about you? What about the American people? What about the people over here? How long we gonna keep on saying those same set of words? What about the American people? We got millions of dollars to send the war, but we ain't got none to help the poor. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we ain't got no money over here for the people and the taxes and the butter, and the high gas and inflation and the trickery game that they play while they serve a war that could literally destroy our planet as we know it and knock us back if you survive to the damn Stone Age. You know what I'm saying? So we have to start to look at this from a better perspective because if he's sending millions of dollars over, taxpayers' dollars over to Ukraine to fight a nuclear nation that has allies as well. You know what I'm saying? China is an ally to Putin. No matter what they say, they're still communists and they're still down with the same ideology as Putin. And Putin have other allies as well, and they are all nuclear nations. So we're looking at a complete nuclear destruction of planet Earth, or well, I don't know if they'll be able to go that far because the Earth is very strong. You know what I'm saying? About complete annihilation of human life on the planet as we would know it. So we need to, and then not only that, even if you survive, the air is going to be poisoned by these nuclear weapons that they found. That's why it's called nuclear. You know what I'm saying? Nuclear poison, probably radiation and all that nuclear shit. You know what I'm saying? So we have to start to look at this from a better perspective. There is no way that you're going to sit up here and keep on looking at this thing as if like, oh yeah, it's good for Putin. Oh yeah, it's good for Putin. It doesn't matter because it still leads to the same thing. While you're agreeing along with these NATO motherfuckers and taking our taxpayers' dollars and sending over to a fucking war that could literally destroy us, you know what I'm saying? You're not thinking about the consequences in the matter that would happen to you. So that means that 95% of you are living suicidal, just like the demon Democrats. There have always been suicidal, assassinational type of bloodthirsty vampires sucking off the children and all kinds of nastiness going on. They just sit down there in their little secret world, you know what I'm saying? But they ain't fooling Point Black because Point Black have always known about your nastiness and your little secret worlds under the ground and all kinds of stupid shit that you do. You're garbage then, just like you garbage now. And until we see some light in this tunnel, we ain't gonna give you no air, no time, no play. So while you busy listening to creep ass Joe Biden and millions of your taxpayers' dollars to facilitate a war that could literally destroy you, your child, and all your race for generations to come, you are completely oblivious to reality. You know what I'm saying? Even when we look at Merrick Garland. Now, we're going to go jump on Merrick Garland here today because Garland is full of shit then, just like he's full of shit now. Like I said, every one of Joe Biden appointees, you know what I'm saying, is doing the sing and dance right now. And he put them there to do exactly what's going on and what you see is going on in its fullness based on the confusion, keeping our minds away while that Russian war continue. Russia continues to grow and grow and grow in the warness that's going on to where Putin now is bringing out nuclear weapons and displaying them and probably setting off minor smaller ones where he's scaring the people and so on and so on. But let's look at Merrick Garland and the bullshit that he sits up there doing. And notice he goes into Chinese, you know what I'm saying? Can't fucking speak. He has no answer for, and he's going to always say, never seen it before. Well, let's get into it, you know what I'm saying? As we go along in itself, you know what I'm saying? In itself. So we're going to go in here and we're going to listen to Merrick the North Garland as we see. And watch how he sings and dances around the mulberry bush, trying to act as if he don't know whatever went on, don't know anything at all. So let's look at Merrick the North Garden in itself. And I want you to listen carefully to what the fool has to say while I hope everybody's online hacking, doing what they got to do. But here we go, and we're going to take it from the top. Now, listen carefully to this man and the situation in which he is ahead of, that he should have been in charge of, in making sure. Remember, we said a long time ago in my lives, I kept saying about the helm. You know what I mean? Who the hell is at the helm? And if nobody's checking the helm, you know what I'm saying, which is the steering wheel on the ship, you know what I'm saying? then who, you drop the ball. You drop the ball on who's at the helm. You know what I'm saying? And that's a good question that we need to ask a lot of older adults while they're sitting up there acting as if this and the third, and then when shit buck off, they always want to complain. They've been doing that for many, many years, haven't you? But let's listen to Mary Garland, Dusty S, and how, he was questioned by Josh Harley, who shreds Garland with impeachment, after dirt dirt memos, conclusions would defeat Joe Biden would defeat Joe Biden and his CDS group of administration, because they should be really checking this man. Why are you busy talking about creep Joe Biden just get a major lead over Donald J. Trump? You got a major lead into pushing you into a nuclear dump. You know what I'm saying? And destruction of your planet. If and well, not the planet, I keep saying that because it's pretty strong, but the destruction of life on the planet. Because remember, when they drop these bombs, they put craters in the earth and it spreads for miles and miles and miles and miles, wiping out, ripping off skin, killing a baby, everything, livestock, food, all that. This is what creep Joe Biden and you're voting for by voting for him. If you understand that Putin and Trump had a for sort of agreement amongst them, where Putin did not see it that way, and he did not want Biden to get it because he knew what he was doing with NATO, and it would have come to this. So Trump was in there making some kind of thing where Putin was at cool and everything was good, but once they knew that Joe Biden was going to cheat his ass up into that seat, shit started popping off in America as well as even in Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? And all the different shit came into full in one ball. But let's look at Merrick Garland and his dizzy ass.
On October 4th, you issued an unprecedented memo that involves the Department of Justice and the FBI and local school districts, local school boards.
This is Josh Harley speaking, questioning Merrick Garland.
Nothing like it in our country's history. It was based, you've testified, on this letter from the National School Board Association that we now know the White House was involved in writing. They've retracted the letter. They've apologized for the letter. They say they regret the letter, but you won't retract the memo and said earlier that you have no regrets. And you've defended yourself repeatedly today before this committee by saying, well, you're focused on violence. But now, of course, we've seen the memo from your own Justice Department advising state and local and other prosecutors about all of the different federal causes of action that they can bring against parents that are not about violence, they're about harassment and intimidation. I'm looking here at this memo. It identifies no fewer than 13 possible federal crimes involving harassment and intimidation, including making annoying phone calls. Do you think a parent who makes a phone call to a school board member that she has elected, that school board member deems annoying, should be prosecuted, General Garland?
No, I don't. And the Supreme Court has made quite clear that the word intimidation with respect to the constitutional protection is one that directs a threat to a person with the intent of placing the victim in fear of bodily harm or death. Prosecutors who investigate these cases know the Supreme Court's. This is a very famous case.
Prosecutors do, but parents don't, General Garland. Do you think that a parent who looks at the 13 different federal crimes that your Justice Department has identified they might be subject to and prosecuted for, like making annoying phone calls, do you think that they're going to feel that they're welcome to speak up at a school board meeting? How about this one? They could be prosecuted for using the internet, I guess that would be Facebook, in a way that might cause emotional distress to a victim. Is that a crime of violence?
Senator, I haven't seen the memo that you're
Why haven't
about,
you?
and I don't, even from the description, it doesn't sound like it was addressed.
You hear what Merrick Garland said? I haven't seen the memo. I never seen it before. Yeah, this sounds like the Gestapos of Germany, you know what I'm saying, just before the war. You know what I'm saying? Where all those 13 counts of different crimes that they put against the parents so the parents won't speak up. And if they do, they probably would have ended up in the concentration jails. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Let's look at it that way. So you're going to head down that road regardless, if this nuclear war with NATO and Russia keeps going on because of Joe Biden being in the office and you voting this jackass back in all the time. You know what I'm saying? You keep saying he's doing this and doing that. No, he's not. He's cheating our fucking country and setting us up to a holy apocalypse nuclear war that they wrote in their Luciferian biblical Bibles and now want to bring that shit to light. The only way you're going to do that is he wants to wipe out everybody else and then start a whole AI world such as you've seen that happening in the Matrix. How do you think that the cities, when he showed Neo the reality as actually what the real world had looked like, it was completely destroyed. It was completely probably nuclear bombed out, all that good old shit. You know what I'm saying? And then out comes the robots and all this shit and harvest the people, you know what I'm saying? And the people running and this and that. And they started cloning billions of babies in what we call a cloning farm, as you see in the movie The First Matrix, which a lot of people need to go back and look at. But let's get back to Merrick Garland lying ass.
To parents. But if you
No, it wasn't addressed to parents. It was addressed to prosecutors. That's the problem. Why haven't you seen the memo?
I don't know why I don't look at I do not get every memo that every U.S. attorney sends out. But if you're
Wait a minute. I just want to be sure I understand this. This is a memorandum that collects 13 different federal crimes parents could be charged with. It has United States Department of Justice on the top of it. And you're telling me you haven't seen it?
Who's the memo from, Senator?
The United States Department of Justice, United States Attorney for the District of Montana.
I have not seen a memo from the District of Montana.
Not high enough priority for you?
That's not the question. I don't.
It is the question. Answer my question. Is it not a high enough priority for you when you're threatening parents with 13 different federal crimes? These aren't crimes of violence. You've testified today you're focused on violence. That's not what your U.S. attorneys, they work for you. That's not what they're saying. You haven't seen it because it's not a high enough priority, or what?
Question of priority. No one has sent me that memo, so I haven't seen it.
What do you mean no one has sent you the memo? You run the United States Department of Justice.
There are 115,000 employees of the Department of Justice.
Indeed, and you are in charge of every one of them. And this was a sufficiently important case that you issued a memo. You, over your signature, issued a memo involving the FBI and the Department of Justice in local school boards, local school districts. Your U.S. attorneys are now threatening prosecution with 13 different crimes, but it's not a high enough priority for you. It got lost in the mix.
I'll send again. I've never seen that memo.
Never seen it before.
That's what concerns me, General Garland.
Well, it wasn't sent to me. I hope you will assure your constituents that what we are concerned about here is violence and...
Notice he keep using the phrase, "I never seen it before." He keep using that same phrase, plausible deniability.
threats of violence.
That only leads me to conclude, General Garland, all I can conclude from this is either that you're not in control of your own department, or that, more likely, what I think to be the case, is that you knew full well that this is exactly the kind of thing that would happen. When you issued your memo, when you involved the Department of Justice and all of its resources, and the FBI and all of its resources, and local school boards and local school districts, you knew that federal prosecutors would start collecting crimes that they could use against parents. You knew they would advise state and local officials that these are all of the ways parents might be prosecuted. You knew that that was the likely outcome. And that's exactly what's happened. And we're talking about parents like Scott Smith, who's behind me over my shoulder. This is a father from Loudoun County, Virginia. Here he is at a school board meeting. He was forcibly restrained. He was assaulted. He was arrested. Why? Because he went to an elected school board meeting. He's a voter, by the way. He went to an elected school board meeting to raise the fact that his daughter was assaulted, sexually assaulted, in a girl's restroom by a boy. This is what happened to him. Now, you testified last week before the House that you didn't know anything about this case. I find that extraordinary because the letter that you put so much weight on, the letter that's now been retracted, it cites this case. It cites Mr. Scott's case directly. There's a news article cited in the letter. It's discussed in the letter, but you testified you just couldn't remember it. Maybe this will refresh your memory. Do you think people like...
Now, who he's talking about is this gentleman He's talking about a guy that was in Virginia, I think it was Virginia school, where there was a LGBTQ individual posing. I don't know if he was posing as a LGBT. Yeah, he was posing as a girl, which would be LGBTQ. You see, and while the bathrooms have, a man, a woman, a kind of looking person with a cut off dress on one side and a man on the other. Then you have a dog, a puppy, and a couple of elephants from Africa. You can all go in the bathroom, at the same time. So, like I said before, here's a woman in there doing her privateness, and a man walks in the fucking bathroom. This is chaotic, Luciferian, Baphomet, Sodom and Gomorrah type shit. Everybody piled on top of each other, swarming like fucking swines or fucking worms, looking. This the type of chaotic, while the Luciferian Baphomet sits on top and you down below, burning in a lake of fire that probably will always never will just be in a lake of fire. You know what I'm saying? This is the type of mind frame they have. This is not this is a mind frame. They create hell, and then put people there in their helpful world to say there is one at all. But none of them can really show me that. And if they do, that means that you have been hiding great many things from us. But when you look at the man daughter, this LGBTQ individual posing as a girl went in the bathroom in some school in Virginia, and he was in there raping the girls, because he was acting as a girl to throw them off, and going with this LGBTQ sweetness, bullshit, even though they got a little office right up here on Long Island, over there by the social service area up there, Smithtown, when we look at that whole situation, you're looking at the situation for itself. Why would this man go in the bathroom dressed as a woman, and in the bathroom while the girls are in there doing their stuff? They could probably even be on their period or whatever the case may be, depends on the age. And then you raping the fucking girls. And he got away with it. And then when Merrick Garland was asked about it, you know what he said? I never seen it before. I never heard about it. I never seen it before. Plausible deniability. But then when the father went to the school board to address the school board that his daughter was raped by an LGBTQ bathroom that you have, because I still don't understand why would you have a bathroom with about 5 different type of agendas can go in the bathroom, as according to you have a gender that's not a reality in the first place, and the main 2 genders, male and female, and the males have their bathroom and the women have their bathroom, because the men shouldn't be in the bathroom with the women, especially if they have their time of the month and certain other things that they're doing privately. Why would a man be standing there watching that? But you created this LGBTQ bull crappy nonsense, Luciferian blood sucking bullshitical garbage, just like Creep Joe Biden and the rest of the fucking Luciferian groups that they follow, and orders and shit. And you create this bullshit. So now he can go in the bathroom, but he wasn't doing that. He actually went in the girl's bathroom dressed as a girl and raped the man's daughter. And when the man went to the board meeting to try to get some justice, he ended up being arrested, ruffled up, slammed to the ground, ripped his clothes, handcuffed, Gestapo movement was done to the man, just trying to defend that his daughter was sexually raped in the school by the LGBTQ bullshit that they do. Let's move on.
Scott Smith, do you think parents who show up to complain about their children being assaulted ought to be treated like this man right
Scott Smith.
Parents who show up to complain about school boards are protected by the First Amendment.
He's lying.
Do you think that they ought to be prosecuted in the different ways that your U.S. attorneys are identifying?
If what they're doing is complaining about what the school board is doing, policies, curriculum, anything else that they want to, as long as they're not committing threats of violence, then they should not be prosecuted.
Now, hear what Merrick Garland just said. He said, as long as they come in and do this and that and not posing threats of violence. Look, wait a minute. He went to the school board to complain about his daughter being violently raped. What is Merrick Garland talking about? He's an idiot for Biden. He's a creep Joe Biden, Luciferian, blood-sucking, Baphomet, deep state having fucking clown. And that's all. He is just like Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, and every philanthropist and fucking people that was supposed to be doing this bullshitical nonsense that we seen talking about some COVID and all this different shit. You know what I'm saying? Merrick Garland ain't no more than a jackass for them. You know what I'm saying? And they got him. You know what I'm saying? But when he stood up there talking about they could come and complain, well, to the board, but if they come complaining and pose threats of violence, this man didn't come there posing threats of violence. He was standing up against the ignoramucy of the creep Joe Biden administration, Luciferian Medical, Sodom and Gomorrah, bullshitical garbage. That's what they're doing, and that's what the man went to complain about. And when the man went to complain about, they were being ignorant and not listening to the man. Now he's in there fighting for his daughter's rights that she was raped. You know what I'm saying? And then end up being ruffled up, bust down, and violence was brought against him. Where was the justice for his daughter being raped in that school and that school board? That school board should immediately have been fired. Every single one of them should have been removed from the board. And this is something that the people are going to have to start to take to the fucking board and to the board of election and all different people who is appointed on the board and sitting up there with long-term tenants falling behind this garbage or even new, and they're up there facilitating this type of fucking shit that we see went on with this man in the school. And this is the answer that Merrick Garland has for this answer, saying that he came there and as long as he was talking, he shouldn't have got, but if he came there and he was threatening them and this and that and the third, then violence should have been brought against him and he should have been removed. So on top of his daughter being raped, hear me clear, in the school by an LGBTQ acting motherfucker, going up in the bathroom with about 5 different people on that one slate that says the women's bathroom, you know what I'm saying, but still have the man bathroom over here, But you have 5 or 6 different men, and then you have a man, and then on top of that, you have a man, a woman, another one look like a man with a triangle, a half a triangle on this side, and man on that side. Then you have another 5 different type of grooves of sexual overstanding in itself can go into that bathroom. But you still got the man bathroom on the other side. You know what I'm saying? What sense does this make? So you want to get rid of the men's bathroom and everybody could just go in the women's bathroom. So this is what caused this to happen. This confusion, chaotic garbage that Merrick Garland and sucker punch blood drinking asses is into. Listen.
And they can't be. Let me ask you about this.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. We'll back that up. We will back that up. Give me just a second here, my peoples, because we have to look at this that took place. You know what I'm saying? This is in the mass of confusion in which they had put forward on the people, which is very crazy. And I can't believe that anybody agreed with that man being arrested, slammed to the ground, ripped his shirt, rip him up, tear him up, slam him up, because he was there at the board meeting defending the fact that and he didn't pose any violence, because I looked at the clip when that happened. He didn't pose any violence. He was arguing with them because they were blocking his truth reality that he brought to the school about defending his daughter's rape. You know what I'm saying? And they sat right up there and did the Gestapo move just before the war. Now let's move on to this again, and we're gonna take it back to this point. Here we go. And we're going to take it back to that point. Hold on a second, please.
You run the United States Department of Justice, do you not?
Let's
There
go.
are 115,000 employees of the Department of Justice.
Indeed, and you are in charge of
Memo from Senator.
the United States Department of Justice, United States Attorney for the District of
I
Montana.
have not seen a memo from the District of Montana.
Not high enough priority for you?
That's not the question. I don't.
Yes,
It
it
is
is.
the question.
It
Answer
is
my
the question,
Is it not a high enough
jackass.
priority for you when you're threatening
You're covering
parents
up.
with 13 different
You're covering up for
federal
Creep Joe Biden and the
crimes?
Demon
These
Democrats.
aren't crimes of
You're covering
violence.
up.
You
You're covering up.
testified today. You're focused on violence. That's not what your U.S. attorneys, they work for you. That's not what they're saying. You haven't seen it because it's not a high enough priority, or what?
Question of priority. No one has sent me that memo, so I haven't seen it.
What do you mean no one has sent you the memo? You run the United States Department of Justice, do you not?
There are 115,000 employees of the Department of Justice.
Indeed, and you are in charge of every one of them. And this was a sufficiently important case that you issued a memo. You, over your signature, issued a memo involving the FBI and the Department of Justice in local school boards, local school districts. Your U.S. attorneys are now threatening prosecution with 13 different crimes, but it's not a high enough priority for you. It got lost in the mix.
I'll send again. I've never seen that memo.
That's what concerns me, General Garland.
Well, it wasn't sent to me. I hope you will assure your constituents that what we are concerned about here is violence and threats of violence.
That only leads me to conclude, General Garland, all I can conclude from this is either that you're not in control of your own department, or that, more likely, what I think to be the case, is that you knew full well that this is exactly the kind of thing that would happen. When you issued your memo, when you involved the Department of Justice and all of its resources, and the FBI and all of its resources, and local school boards and local school districts, you knew that federal prosecutors would start collecting crimes that they could use against parents. You knew they would advise state and local officials that these are all of the ways parents might be prosecuted. You knew that that was the likely outcome.
Yes, he did.
And that's exactly what's happened. And we're talking about parents like Scott Smith, who's behind me over my shoulder. This is a father from Loudoun County, Virginia. Here he is at a school board meeting. He was forcibly restrained. He was assaulted. He was arrested. Why? Because he went to an elected school board meeting. He's a voter, by the way. He went to an elected school board meeting to raise the fact that his daughter was assaulted, sexually assaulted, in a girl's restroom by a boy. This is what happened to him. Now, you testified last week before the House that you didn't know anything about this case. I find that extraordinary because the letter that you put so much weight on, the letter that's now been retracted, it cites this case. It cites Mr. Scott's case directly. There's a news article cited in the letter. It's discussed in the letter, but you testified you just couldn't remember it. Maybe this will refresh your memory. Do you think people like Scott Smith, do you think parents who show up to complain about their children being assaulted ought to be treated like this man right here?
Parents who show up to complain about school boards are protected by the First Amendment.
Do you think that they ought to be prosecuted
He
in
violated
the different
that.
ways that your U.S. attorneys are identifying?
If what they're doing is complaining about what the school board is doing, policies, curriculum, anything else that they want to, as long as they're not committing threats of violence, then they should not be prosecuted, and they can't be.
Let me ask you about this. Several of my Democrat colleagues have today, just today in this hearing, multiple times have compared parents who show up at school board meetings, like Mr. Smith here, have compared them to criminal rioters. Do you think that's right? You think that a parent who shows up at a school board meeting, who has a complaint, who wants to voice that complaint, and maybe she doesn't use exactly the right grammar, you think they're akin to criminal rioters? Do you agree with that?
I do not, and I do not remember any senator here making that comparison.
Oh, really? These people are just like the folks who came here on January 6th and in the riot at the Capitol?
I don't think they were referring to the picture that you're showing there.
Well, I certainly would hope not. But they were referring to parents who go to school board meetings. Mr. Smith is a parent who went to a school board meeting. I'll leave it at this, General Garland. You have weaponized the FBI and the Department of Justice. U.S. attorneys are now collecting and cataloging all the ways that they might prosecute parents like Mr. Smith because they want to be involved in their children's education and they want to have a say in their elected officials. It's wrong. It is unprecedented, to my knowledge, in the history of this country, and I call on you to resign. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's right. Get rid of his
Senator
ass.
Cotton is recognized.
Get rid of his ass. He full of
Judge
shit.
Garland, on May 11th, Tony Fauci testified that his agency, quote, has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Last week, his agency admitted that they had, in fact, funded gain of research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Are you investigating Tony Fauci for lying to Congress?
So the long-time rule in the Justice Department not to discuss pending investigations, potential investigations.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Do you believe Tony Fauci was truthful when he said his agency had never funded gain-of-function research?
This is outside of my scope of
Okay,
knowledge.
let's turn to your outrageous directive sicking the feds on parents at school boards across America. When you crafted that October 4th memo, did you consult with senior leadership at the FBI?
Roofers are furious about this new product that's going viral. Replace your home.
Ooh-wee. Now, can you believe that shit? You know what I'm saying?
Or the idea of the memo had been discussed with the FBI before.
Did anyone at the FBI express any doubt or disagreement or hesitation with your decision to issue that memo?
No one expressed that to me.
No one.
To me. No one expressed that to me, no.
You taking the heat
Because a
in.
lot of them have contacted us and they said they did, Judge.
I'm sorry?
A lot of FBI officials have contacted my office and said that they oppose this decision.
Well, I doubt any of them spoke to me about it because I didn't speak to no one.
All right, all right. Judge, you've repeatedly dissembled this morning about that directive. For instance, about the National Security Division. Chuck Grassley asked you a very simple question, why you would sic the National Security Division of the Department of Justice on parents. John Cornyn asked you the same thing. You said it wasn't in your October 4th memorandum, it was in another office's memorandum. It wasn't another office's memorandum, Judge. It was in a press release from your office, right here in front.